Absolutely going to testify. I won't even say his name. He is an evil being and is going to pay.
I think that I was just, living in this shame, living in all this sort of stuff of my past, and I wasn't able to move on. It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second.
Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time.
The courtroom was gripped by silence as Diddy's calm demeanor cracked. His fists clenched, his jaw locked, and the air grew thick with tension the moment Justin Bieber's name was mentioned. That was the breaking point on day 2 of the trial. When it was revealed that Bieber had publicly backed Cassie, Diddy snapped, and things spiraled so fast that security had to intervene, with even the judge stunned by the sudden outburst.
Do you think the person that the you of then was on a path of self-destruction?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I would have, for sure, 100%. Yeah. It would have been no bueno. It was bad. I don't know if I'd be alive, for sure. It was dark. So I'm very, very grateful to have influences in my life that have played a huge part in me seeing their relationship with Jesus and their relationship with their wives and their relationship with their kids and saying that's what I want. But I want to definitely tell my story so that if that resonates to anybody, that they can hopefully, but yeah, just protecting those moments because people take for granted encounters and
Wow, I feel violated right now. Wow.
Lean into me again. You smell amazing. How old are you?
Thank you.
How old are you?
I'm 16. I'll be 17 in like 2 weeks.
I don't ever remember smelling that good at 16. Like that was bad.
Yeah.
Wow, look at your eyes. Look at what a beautiful...
Bieber turned 15, and it suddenly seemed that Hollywood was keen to almost initiate him. I think that's the right word. Like there was almost like this initiation that he needed to go through. So I want you to be now super uncomfortable and watch this video of an interaction between him and none other than Diddy. Take a listen.
Justin, you ever seen the movie For the Times of Their Lives? Like, where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. I have been given custody of him. He signed to Usher.
I'm signed to Usher.
I had legal guardianship of Usher when he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So and we gonna go full.
Young Justin Bieber, who was signed by Usher, involved with Scooter Braun. Now all of a sudden he's being put in the hands of Diddy, who, it is true, he became the legal guardian for Usher. You can look up all of the allegations of what Diddy did. The allegations are essentially that Diddy very much initiated Usher. As we are going through these lawsuits and Diddy is in prison, we are recognizing that everybody knew. This was an open secret about what Diddy was doing. So it just begs the question, who allowed Justin Bieber to be in the presence of this man, knowing what he was up to, allegedly up to? That seems to be very clear.
When the neighbor turned 15, it was as if Hollywood had been waiting to pounce, as though some twisted rite of passage was about to begin. And to make it all the more unsettling, there's a video you need to see, a moment between him and none other than Diddy. Now, fast forward to day 2 of the trial, and things kicked off with an uneasy calm. Diddy entered, flanked by his elite legal team, trying to project confidence. But if you looked closely, something was off. His eyes were darting around the courtroom like he was bracing for a surprise attack. Security was tighter than before. Extra. Guards posted near his table, one directly behind him and another by the aisle, like someone had warned them something was about to go down. Then Cassie walked in, capturing every gaze in the room. She wore a modest black dress with a white collar, understated but powerful, and was surrounded by a loyal group of friends who moved with her like silent protectors. It was a striking contrast. Diddy had paid security. Cassie had real support. Diddy, meanwhile, couldn't stay off his phone. He kept pulling it out, scrolling furiously, his expression darkening each time. Eventually, one of his lawyers had to snatch it from him, and that's when I noticed his hand was shaking. On the other side of the room, the prosecution seemed unusually tense. They were huddled close, whispering and slipping notes behind folders. One even flashed something on her tablet to another, who nodded like they'd just uncovered something huge. Despite attempts by Diddy's lead lawyer to keep him grounded, whispering, touching his shoulder, Diddy wasn't having it. At one point, he shoved the lawyer's hand away so hard he nearly lost his balance against the table. Then the judge entered, and her expression said it all. Gone was the calm authority from day one. Now she looked like someone who'd been warned the school troublemaker was about to act up. Her eyes locked onto Diddy's table as she quietly spoke to her clerk, who reached for the phone. But by then, it was already too late. Diddy had seen Justin Bieber's bombshell post in support of Cassie. His team tried to take the phone, tried to contain the reaction, but the damage was already done. The tension exploded as the bailiff called the court to order. Jurors looked shaken, with one even requesting water, her hand trembling. Diddy sat there, leg bouncing, a thick vein bulging in his forehead. He refused to look at any legal papers, breathing heavily, staring straight ahead like he was barely holding something in. No one knew exactly what would trigger him or how bad it would get, but we all felt it coming. The moment Diddy's polished image would finally crack in front of the world.
Yeah, so, yeah, I just want to protect her, you know? I don't want her to lose it. I don't want her to, you know, go through anything I went through. I don't wish that upon anybody. So, yeah, if she ever needs me, I mean, just think about how young I was and so impressionable. And you have everybody telling me how awesome I am at all times, you know, and like...
It's like taking a kid and putting a kid in a room full of nothing but sweets.
Right.
And just saying, I'll be back in 2 days.
Exactly. I just want people to understand, like, the psychology behind why I potentially could have problems in my life. So.
In time, let's talk about the fact that Combs' co-defendant in a civil case, a case, by the way, that accuses him and this co-defendant, another A-lister, of rape. This guy is once again slamming the attorney behind the case, insisting that he be sanctioned for allegedly not doing his job. We're talking, of course, about Sean Carter, better known as Jay-Z, once again calling out attorney Tony Busby, calling out his character, more specifically into question, claiming that the Texas attorney's filings have, quote, substantial. Now, we've talked about this before, but basically, a civil lawsuit was filed against Sean Combs on behalf of a Jane Doe who says that she was raped by Combs and another celebrity at a home after the Video Music Awards in 2000.
As the courtroom buzzed with tension, an even bigger storm erupted online. Justin Bieber dropped an unexpected bombshell right in the middle of the trial, and it sent the music world into a frenzy. Out of nowhere, Bieber posted a powerful message, standing with Cassie, and it hit like a shockwave inside and outside the courthouse. What made it all the more explosive was the history between him and Diddy, those old clips of a young Bieber at Diddy's lavish parties, with Diddy constantly calling himself Justin's mentor and big brother, proudly crediting himself for helping launch Bieber's career. So this wasn't just another celebrity weighing in, it felt like a deeply personal betrayal. And Bieber didn't hold back. Unlike the usual vague celebrity statements, he got specific, mentioning incidents he personally witnessed, including one from 2015 when Diddy allegedly yanked Cassie's arm too hard at an after-party, and other times when he talked over her or cut her off during interviews. These weren't just secondhand claims. Bieber was saying he saw it all himself. By the first court recess, the post had already gone viral. In the courthouse hallways, people were gathering in clusters, eyes glued to their phones, buzzing with disbelief. A court officer had to remind everyone to silence their devices. Legal aides rushed to print screenshots for both legal teams, and even some jurors looked confused by the sudden surge in attention, clearly sensing that something major had just dropped. Bieber had even included a photo, an older image of him, and Cassie at a music event, both smiling, though Cassie's eyes seemed to carry a weight no one noticed back then. The caption read, "Sorry I didn't speak up sooner," paired with praise for Cassie's strength, calling her brave and truthful. He also admitted that what he'd seen years ago had disturbed him, but he hadn't fully understood it until now, openly expressing guilt for not recognizing the signs of a controlling dynamic sooner. The fallout was immediate. Reporters in the courtroom jumped into action. One dashed out to call her editor, another hammered at her keyboard like she was racing a deadline, and a network anchor mouthed, "Did you see it?" across the aisle. The room's energy flipped. Whispers grew louder. People craned their necks to see Diddy's reaction, and some turned to look at Cassie, who sat composed, unfazed by the chaos brewing around her. Meanwhile, Diddy's legal team scrambled. One lawyer tried to snatch phones, another positioned himself to block Diddy's view of a colleague's screen, but it was no use. Someone had already shown Diddy the post. His eyes locked on the phone, his expression froze, then shifted completely, and in that instant, the damage was irreversible. Everyone could see it.
18 years old, and I should mention he was signed by Usher to a label that was owned jointly by both Scooter Braun and Usher, and he was considered Usher's protege. He has been described Usher as his mentor. Justin Bieber is continuing the purge. He has now moved to his original mentor. So this is a very big story, and the reason why we should discuss this and we should not diminish what is happening, it's not celebrity drama. This is actually the fall of Babylon that we are witnessing. Hollywood Babylon, that is. He did an interview back in 2020 with Zane Lowe. I think this was on Apple Music. And he was speaking about another young artist that was coming up, Billie Eilish, and Eilish. And he was basically speaking about how he wanted to protect her because she was now another young person, a rising artist in the industry. And sort of out of nowhere, he became quite overcome with emotion. Take a listen.
Yeah, I definitely feel protective of her. It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second. So yeah, it's hard because I want her to know that, she can count on me. But at the end of the day, I'm never going to force myself to be in a relationship with her. It has to be natural, right? So I just kind of, let her do her thing. And if she ever needs me, I'm going to be here for her. But yeah, just protecting those moments because people take for granted.
I'm not even kidding. Watching that clip makes me emotional because he is saying so much without really saying anything. Protect Billie Eilish from what? From who?
The moment Diddy laid eyes on Bieber's post, it was like someone flipped a switch. His face went from stunned disbelief to barely contained fury in seconds. First came the wide-eyed shock, mouth slightly open, then the betrayal set in, his. Brows furrowed tight, nostrils flared, and his jaw clenched so hard you could almost hear it. A woman seated 3 rows back later told reporters she saw Diddy's hands trembling as he tried to grab papers from his attorney, only for them to slip through his fingers and scatter to the floor, drawing every eye in the room. The first real red flag came when Diddy suddenly stood abruptly and aggressively, not like someone stretching, but like he was about to explode. The nearest bailiff stepped forward instantly, sensing trouble. Then came the outburst. Diddy muttered loudly enough for the front row to hear, "After everything I did for that kid, loyalty means nothing anymore." He followed it with a dark comment about consequences, prompting his lawyer to grab his arm and pull him back into his seat, whispering frantically in his ear. But Diddy shook him off, breathing hard, like someone trying not to lose it. Even the court sketch artist captured the moment with eerie precision, his bulging eyes, tense jaw, and strained neck veins practically jumping off the page. Prosecutors took note. The lead attorney signaled her assistant, who immediately exited the courtroom, later confirmed to be rushing to bring in a surprise witness tied directly to Bieber's post. Security closed in too, quietly moving closer to Diddy's table, one even unclipping something on his belt, ready in case things escalated. The transformation in Diddy was undeniable. On day one, he was poised and calm. Now he was twitchy, loosening his tie, wiping his face, clearly unraveling. Then, the moment that shocked the entire courtroom, Diddy slammed his hand on the table, knocking over a water glass that shattered on the floor. Gasps echoed as reporters picked up on his whispered threat. "I'll make sure he never works in this town again." Neither of them will. His lawyer had to wrap an arm around him to keep him seated as the judge slammed her gavel and called an emergency 15-minute recess. But that break only worsened things for Diddy. While his lawyers huddled around him, clearly concerned, he sat stewing in anger. When the court reconvened, the atmosphere had changed. Cassie returned to the stand with new strength, shoulders squared, chin high, no longer avoiding eye contact. She looked straight at the jury, even briefly locking eyes with Diddy, clearly. Unshaken, then came her testimony, beginning with damning new evidence. A string of messages from Diddy. One 2016 thread showed him sending 17 unanswered texts demanding her location. Another read, "I need to know where you are every minute. That's the deal if you want to keep your career." The courtroom went dead silent, so quiet you could hear the ceiling fan spinning. Cassie revealed that Diddy controlled who she could speak to in the industry, even banning her from talking to Justin Bieber unless he was present. When she questioned that rule, she said Diddy grabbed her arm at an after party and whispered that she'd regret it. Her voice didn't waver as she described years of control, isolation, and surveillance, echoing every claim Bieber had made. And though she hadn't spoken to Bieber in years, their stories aligned perfectly. When asked why she waited so long to come forward, her answer hit hard. "He told me nobody would believe me. He said he controlled who worked in this industry and who didn't. I watched him make calls that ended people's careers." The jury was visibly shaken. One woman wiped away tears, while an older man underlined something in his notes. 3 times. But the real bombshell landed when prosecutors played hotel security footage from 2018, showing Cassie speaking with a male artist before Diddy suddenly appeared, wrapped an arm around her, and led her away. It was exactly what she had just described, and it sent Diddy into a panic. He leaned into his lawyer, whispering rapidly, pointing at the screen. Meanwhile, Cassie continued with date-stamped precision. March 8th, 2017 at the Standard Hotel in New York, June 22nd, 2017 in Miami, and September 12th, 2018 backstage at the VMAs. Each mention made Diddy's legal team more frantic, flipping through notes, whispering in urgency. Cassie added that Bieber's post had inspired others to come forward. "My phone hasn't stopped buzzing. People are ready to talk," she said. The most devastating blow came when she recalled a chilling exchange at an industry party. After speaking briefly with Bieber, she said Diddy pulled her aside and warned, "Even Justin knows what happens to people who cross me." With Bieber now publicly siding with her, that line carried dangerous weight as Cassie laid out her story steadily and fearlessly. Diddy sat visibly crumbling, fidgeting, whispering, his once polished image unraveling right before everyone's eyes.
And weeks after the initial filing, Busby submitted an amended complaint naming Jay-Z as the celebrity who allegedly participated. They wanted copies of these videos for themselves. And I've talked to lawyers about this before. There's a big advantage to having the electronic video, the electronic evidence yourself, right? You don't have to always go over to the other office. You can view the materials on your own. It's a way to better prepare for your defense. And Sean Combs' lawyers argued that under the federal rules of criminal procedure, electronic data that is in the government's possession, Judge Subramanian denied the defense's motion to amend the protective order, but without prejudice, meaning this issue could be revisited. So Subramanian's order reads, quote, "While the government objects to handing the videos over, they provide several options for a defendant to consider that would permit the defense to view the videos, access the information they're looking for, and even allow them to manipulate the video."
It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second. So if she ever needs me, I'm going to be here for her. But yeah, just protecting those moments because people take for granted encounters, and I just want to protect her, I don't want her to go through anything I went through. I don't wish that upon anybody. Yeah, if she ever needs me, I'm just a call away.
Do you realize how important your story is? Every time I have a conversation with someone who's been through this unique type of experience, I'm searching for some kind of truth that can help.
I commend you for going there and asking the tough questions and the things that people don't want to talk about, and they don't want to go there because it's revealing, and I want people to take a look at my story, and hopefully my words can make a difference.
UST, when it seemed the courtroom had reached its peak, the prosecutor stepped forward with a folder in hand and a calm but cutting statement. "Your Honor, we'd like to present evidence that directly contradicts Mr. Combs' claim that Ms. Ventura fabricated these allegations." She connected her tablet to the courtroom screens, and instantly, messages between Justin Bieber and Cassie from 2017 lit up. As she zoomed in on one particular exchange, the tension was palpable. Cassie had written, I don't know what to do anymore. He monitors everything. Bieber had replied, "This isn't normal, Cass. What he's doing isn't okay. You need to talk to someone who can help." The room collectively leaned in, but none more dramatically than Diddy. He shot out of his chair so fast it screeched against the floor, making people flinch. His face flushed deep red, and the cool image he'd spent years crafting evaporated. His attorney reached to calm him, whispering, "Sean, don't do this." But Diddy shoved him away, sending the man stumbling. "This is all lies," Diddy yelled, jabbing a finger toward Cassie. "You know damn well that's not what happened. Where's your loyalty after everything I did for you?" His voice cracked with fury. "You're making this all up, both of you." The judge banged her gavel sharp and loud. "Mr. Combs, sit down immediately or I will have you removed," she warned, but Diddy kept shouting. Two security officers sprang into action, one wedging himself between Diddy and Cassie, the other closing in from behind. Court reporters typed like their lives depended on it, capturing every second of the meltdown. The jury sat frozen when a woman covered her mouth. A young man leaned away in discomfort. "Your Honor, we need a recess," Diddy's lawyer shouted, but the damage had already been done. Diddy pointed at the screens, yelling, "Those are fake. They fabricated those. Messages. This is a setup. Justin never said that." His gestures were wild, frantic, unhinged. But the messages spoke for themselves. Clear, time-stamped proof that Cassie had reached out for help years before she ever filed a lawsuit. It destroyed the defense's narrative in one blow. The judge slammed her gavel again. "Remove the jury immediately," she ordered. As they exited, several jurors looked back at Diddy, still standing, still seething. One security guard placed a firm hand on Diddy's shoulder. "Sir, you need to calm down now," he said. For a brief moment, it looked like Diddy might lash out again, but instead, he finally went quiet, breathing heavily as reality sank in. His grip on the courtroom and his image had just crumbled. Once the jury was gone, Judge Marlowe stood from the bench, her expression cold and firm. "Mr. Combs, this is a court of law, not a recording studio. You do not control what happens." "Here," she said, her voice cut through the silence like a blade. "One more outburst like that, and I will hold you in contempt. You'll spend the remainder of this trial in a holding cell." Then she imposed a series of new restrictions. A psychiatric evaluation before the next session, security officers posted at arm's length from Diddy at all times, revoked phone privileges, and restricted contact with his own lawyers unless supervised. Diddy's defense team looked like they'd been blindsided. One lawyer shook his head, another frantically made calls, while a third scribbled notes and shot nervous glances at their unraveling client. When the jury returned, the change in atmosphere was unmistakable. One juror subtly angled her chair away from the defense. An older man who had taken meticulous notes now sat stiffly, arms crossed, no longer even holding his pen. Most telling was juror number 8, the one who had smiled at Diddy on the first day, now avoiding even a glance in his direction. Meanwhile, the prosecution remained composed. The lead prosecutor calmly shuffled her notes, occasionally looking at Diddy with quiet satisfaction. Her assistant hid a faint smirk behind her hand. Security no longer bothered with subtlety. 2 guards stood behind Diddy, another stationed at the door, hand resting on his belt. The message was loud and clear. Control had shifted. Legal experts watching from the gallery whispered among themselves. "He just lost right there," murmured a former federal prosecutor. A law professor scribbled furiously in a notebook. Another attorney, seasoned from high-profile trials, shook his head and muttered, "Amateur hour." And through it all, Cassie sat perfectly still, back straight, hands folded, eyes steady. She hadn't flinched during Diddy's eruption. She didn't need to. Her calm, her consistency said more than any outburst ever could. By the close of day 2, the difference from that morning was stark. Diddy had arrived with swagger, a crisp suit, head high, flashing confidence. He left hunched, eyes down, tie loose, flanked by lawyers who looked like they'd aged a decade in a single afternoon. When his lead attorney gently placed a hand on his back to guide him out, Diddy shrugged it off, not out of defiance, but defeat. This trial had become more than a battle of facts. It was a test of character, and on that front, Cassie had held her ground while Diddy self-destructed. With Bieber publicly backing her and the court watching his every move, the narrative was shifting fast. The only question now, who else will speak up? Because once Bieber broke the silence, the floodgates opened, and it's only a matter of time before others follow.